Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Join us for today's episode of the Utopian Realities Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth Blog Talk Radio show, bringing you solution bearers with practical, proven, scientific ways to help you eliminate global level irradiation and extinction level threats from your body, and bringing forward the means to restore and sustain global waters, air, soil, and sentient life. Welcome. Greetings, this is Seava, also known as Lisa Wolf, your host. Welcome to the Utopian Realities from Concept to Planetary Restoration Slope, Save and Sustain Life on Planet Earth, Earth Aid Now, Sunday Solution Bearers Forum, where we bring you solution bearers who can help us to mend the sacred hoop of life. As always, listeners, follow the link to listen to the program and to join the live chat page during the program, and phone 845-277-9359 with questions or comments. Thanks for joining Earth Aid Now Radio this Sunday, July 2nd, as we continue with our ongoing live on-air solutions forum focusing on Oceti, Sacowin, sovereignty and sustainability. Our guests today are Nunee, Oyate Ota, and Nunee. Welcome.
How?
Yate.
Glad to be here with you this evening. Thank you for having us here. I am Nunee. I'm Dene. I'm from Dene, also with the 2018 and the Lakota Delegation for Freedom, Campaign for Freedom. And here this evening, I want to say a little prayer and thank you in my language. Sila lele ke hana sana kon ho khatin de ne inna kon de sa ba ha odegi kon de nasli dole ha ne ne to kon sen sa ba ha ne dasling dole kon khatin de Coastal Island. I sent these words and in prayer and with good thoughts and good intentions. Please excuse me, my elders and my grandmothers, my headmen, anybody that I offend. I do not mean to offend you or any way do we try to cause an offense, a defensive intention. We thank you for letting us talk with you here and share some words and some of our little bit of knowledge and words and what we're working on here today is about sovereignty. I have my uncle here who's been in the sovereignty movement, and he's been involved with this throughout his life. His name is Oyate Ota. He comes from Rosebud, and as he is a member of the Sacowin tribal nation, and he is here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we're coming to you from now, Albuquerque, New Mexico, this evening. And I'll turn it over to my uncle to introduce himself this evening. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Wopila.
I'm Oyate Ota from Shangu, Dakota, and I'm honored to be on your program this morning or this afternoon.
Thank you. And I thank Creator for blessing us with technology that works. We're actually all sitting here in the grandfather's dining room with laptop, and I understand we're also going to, as well as hear the latest on the sound path to liberty for all our relations, our mother. We're also going to hear some incredible music.
You bet. Yeah. I'll play some for you after a bit here.
Okay.
Well, I just have a very short kind of message, and I'll try to make it short anyway.
We have 2 hours, and we will find out afterwards, listeners. Hopefully, the sound quality is good. As I said, we're all sitting here around a computer, talking to the computer, so we don't really know what our sound quality is. So I hope you can hear us well. Thank you.
Well, I'm a member of the American Indian movement since 1972, 71, really. I was at the first National Convention and in Wounded Knee. And Wounded Knee aimed at declaring independence, but it never really took hold. The United States really never recognized it. They didn't pursue it in the 19 or 21 point position paper they put out. But in 1991, I organized a meeting of the Treaty Council and some elders and the Treaty Chief, Richard Grass.
Oh, I remember Richard Grass.
I worked with Richard for like 4 years, steady every day.
I know Bunny Singsworth. I went to see her.
And he was working on, he was representing Chief Red Cloud, Richard Grass. He was the main treaty chief. And at this meeting that I organized, all the Treaty Council was there, the representatives of the Black Hills Tea Conservation Treaty Council. Richard Grass was there, Robert Grayhinkle, Archie Fire, I came off a bunch of others, but for some I didn't know who they were there. The meeting was to declare independence. And so this is the reason why they were all there. They wanted to participate. So we held this meeting, and at the end of the meeting, Leslie Blackfeather, the spokesman for the Treaty Council, made the announcement that we was going to take a vote and we was going to sign a document. So we took a vote. We had a big TV set up and all around, and everybody voted, and it was unanimous that we was going to do this.
Their independence.
And this was what year?
Huh?
What year was this?
1991.
That the Lakota would be in a unanimous decision to declare independence from the United States government and the corporation in the District of Columbia.
July 14th, 1991 at Bear Butte.
July 14th,
At Bear
1991.
Butte.
So we all signed the document, and then we selected a delegation to go to the UNPO in The Hague, Netherlands, to represent us there. I had that all arranged for them to fly over there. I believe they consider everything already. And so we selected this delegation, and they went over there. And a few days afterwards, and continued on from there.
And this delegation was with the intent to do what?
Get recognition for independence.
Okay, so they had the paperwork, they had all the signatures intact to.
You had the clan mothers?
And that would go to the International Parliament, or
Well, no,
go
this
to
is
the Hague,
at
or
the United Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization.
Right.
They don't give recognition, but they give assistance
wow.
to go to the United Nations and get recognition. They went there 2 or 3, I think 3 times. And then kind of died after that. I don't know why. I left it in their hands. And what they did or didn't do with it after that, I don't know. But it died out. kind of revitalized it after a while with Chief Richard Grass. And we went around and did some speeches and went around to the different reservations. And even I went to all of them and spoke to everybody.
In South and North Dakota.
Yeah, North Dakota,
And Grass.
Well, and Bunny still has the,
Canada.
she still has the Lakota Dakota Nation, Dakota Nation.org website still up with all the archives. And since my understanding was that, ultimately for it to have full recognition under international law, that the clan mothers or society matrons, whatever the word is, need to be in place because was the understanding there, or has that understanding evolved? In 91 when you were presenting yourselves, because to me one of the keys that if it's correct that they've known is as long as you allowed your women to be debased, they could hold you. You'd always be prisoner of war Indians because you would have performed treaty against your own government.
Well, there was women involved in it.
Right. Society.
Anyway, aside from that, I wanted to go back to something. In 1971, I acquired a document that was called Dialogue and Description of Events Surrounding the Signing of the 1868 FORT Laramie Treaty. And an official government document in an official blue binder or cover, and it says government printing office. I don't know who the author of that was, but whoever it was commissioned by the United States in 1868 to record this treaty meeting.
Wow.
And it was like a half-inch or so thick book of dialogue and description of events that took place. He described everything, the setting, the people that were there, what was going on, everything took place. And at one point in this document, he described where just prior to the treaty meeting itself, signing, I should qualify this by saying that none of the Lakota, not any of them, zero, wanted to sign this 1868 treaty.
Lakota, no.
Nobody wanted to sign it. It's documented. Everybody knows this. And at some point, Red Cloud and Tail and whoever, two or three of them, decided that people were starving and you were being harassed by the military, chased down and killed and whatever. And they needed food and rest and shelter and everything. And so they decided that they needed to sign this treaty. But none of the other warriors wanted to sign this treaty. So the treaty was supposed to have 3/4 of the male signatures on it. Okay. When this treaty was taking place, just prior to it, this reporter describes how a wagon of whiskey barrels and cases of whiskey was brought into the treaty camp. They unloaded the wagons and distributed this whiskey to anybody who would take it.
Every adult Indian male, huh?
Yeah, the Indian male treaty signers. And obviously this was a conspiracy that they had got together and planned.
Premeditated, yeah.
Bought the whiskey, sent somebody to buy it, brought the wagon in, got somebody to drive it, unload it, distribute it.
So everybody would get drunk and sign the treaty.
Yeah. So he describes how they got drunk and they were passed out and staggering all over the place. And so it come time to sign this treaty. And those that were passed out, the United States agents physically drug them up to the treaty signing table. The paper was at the end. And the ones that couldn't walk, they assisted them over there. They physically put pins in their hand, in their fingers, and they physically signed for them.
Put their marks down. And then put
Their
their
mark
name.
or their name. That's what it was, their mark or their name
Fraud.
on this treaty.
Treasonous acts.
Because of the fact that they didn't have all these treaty signers there, they should have had like thousands of signatures. Well, if you look at that treaty, there's only like 2 or 3 pages of signers.
And there should be thousands
Yeah.
upon thousands.
And so that being number 1, forgery by the United States and conspiracy to defraud. And not getting the required amount of signatures on that treaty. First of all, it was invalidated when it was forged. And invalidated when it didn't get the required number of signatures. And so...
And you can't force an agreement made under duress.
No.
It's the same with the Treaty of Ruby Valley. The granddaughter, the Chief Tomoke, told me the story, and a whole bunch. I had all these Pony Express people in one room, and Joyce McDade stood up and told the story of how her grandfather, Chief Tomoke, was, they held a gun to his head, and he said, and we're trying to make him eat a bowl of brave soup. When he signed the Treaty of Ruby Valley that gave away the Shoshone lands, that's not a valid treaty.
No. Well, you might be eligible for the same thing I'm about to tell you. The fact that this treaty was forged. And this
What do you mean by forged?
The agent signed this treaty, not the signers, just because they were totally passed out. It describes it in.
It's like dead people signing something.
Yeah. They did they had no knowledge of it, and they weren't aware. They were unconscious.
So you're using they're using the technicality that the pen was physically in their hand to say that they signed it.
Yeah.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, this document, it was in the School of Mines and Technology in Rapid City, South Dakota, in 1972. It was in a glass lock case, and me and one of Ray Cloud's nephews went in there. So somebody told us about it. We went in there. They said, "Go get this document." So we went in there, and the case happened to be open. So I started reading this thing, and when I got to the part where they got him drunk, brought the whiskey and got him drunk and signed for them.
So everybody thought, we'll be passed out. Nothing will happen. They didn't know these Wasichus were so hardcore, they would drag them over and make them sign.
Yeah. Well, when I read that, I said, man, why would they even print this? and put it on display.
Incriminate themselves.
Yeah. And the other thing I said was, we gotta have this. So I told Lodu, I said, go over, get that librarian and go distract him over there. I'm gonna get this book. So we did, and I got the book. I stuck it down, shirt there, down. And I took the book and I took it to Chief Blisco, who was the treaty chief at the time. And I gave it to him so that he would have it for his treaty meetings here. And so this is an official document that exists.
And there's more than just that copy of it then.
There's a copy of it somewhere. And in 1972, since that was the only copy on display, I don't know how long it was on display there, but it might not have been very long. Not many Indian people went to the School of Mines and Technology or to the library. And when that book disappeared in 1972, nobody else had a chance to read it. Only one other person I know of read it. By the time I had read it and got it. So nobody really knows about this forgery, conspiracy, except me. Because I think I'm the only one alive now that's seen this document, that actually read it, and had it. And so this is what I've been trying to get out to the people, that this document exists in the Library of Congress somewhere, or in United States Printing Office archives somewhere, or one of those agencies where they had the War Department and so on. Moved it over to wherever,
Department of the Interior
or something. Have this document, copy of it. And this was a typewritten copy, but there's a manuscript somewhere that this reporter hand wrote in 1868. So, this is a valid claim in my eyes anyway, because I've seen this document and I know what it said in here and what happened.
And so what does that mean going forward for the nation?
No, what that means going forward for the nation is this. Those acts, forgery of the treaty, the conspiracy to defraud, the omission of not having required a number of signatures for the treaty. They invalidate that treaty, and this can stand up under the Geneva Convention Law of Treaties, 53-61, which states that it's called the self-invalidating treaty. You make an agreement, and the other side doesn't follow through with their part of it. That agreement is null and void. If I sell you a car and you don't make your payment, I take the car back.
Right.
Same thing. It reverts back to the people. It reverts back to 1851 status, which was independent nation status. And under the, I have a dossier that's 40 pages of chronological order of all the cases of this 1860, this Lakota land grab and claim and everything at the Black Hills, beginning from, they start with international attorneys put this together. They start way back with the doctrine of discovery,
Right.
and on and on. And it was their conclusion that the Lakota have independent nation status, have always had it. So we are an independent nation.
So how do we make that actually stick so that we can say to the black snake, get off our land?
Yeah. To be a nation, they're required to have a population, distinct language, distinct culture, territorial boundary. We have all of those. But we are an independent nation. Under international law, to become an independent nations are just recognition is declaratory. You have to declare it. If you declare you're an independent nation, we have all these requirements met.
So you're talking about the economic sovereignty.
Yeah.
That's what there's been a lot of discussion of that.
Then it's a matter of dispute, then as to who has jurisdiction.
I would think that everything belongs to the nation. And we've been talking about how, you don't have to put a special tax on Oceti. All the tax money would be going to the nation anyway, all the different levels. I mean, it can be as little disruption. I mean, and to me, I'd much rather have people who have a caretaker sensibility making decisions about what can happen and what cannot happen on the land. I mean, I don't know. That's just something I've seen.
There's people involved that want to declare independent nation status and do it under some kind of genocide claim. Something, I don't know what else they would use, but they want to occupy federal land and declare independent nation status and set up a national headquarters.
I heard talks of embassies.
And declare jurisdiction, that we have jurisdiction. But all that's going to do is get you arrested. Because you're still under the United States law. But if you stand on the Geneva Convention Law of Treaties and Article 53-61, where this treaty is self-invalidated retroactively, then you're outside of United States law and you're into international law. So the United States, then if you occupy federal land, wherever that may be, federal courthouse or federal forest somewhere, wherever, no matter what size of it is, if it's just enough to put your teepee on, and you declare independent nation status, and declare that you have jurisdiction within your territorial boundary, and that you do have jurisdiction within the whole territorial boundary.
Right.
That would have to be, it's a really complex issue trying to...
Well, my understanding is they're dealing with that already to some degree in Ottawa, in Canada, with the recognition that that's unceded territorial land. So they're starting to feel it up there.
Yeah.
I had hopes when I went up I don't know if Nunee told you, I was just up in Winnipeg. I went up to see, well, this gentleman, Eagle Eye Man, he's originally British. Apparently he's adopted by the Nunee. No, it's him and Lester House who have been the two main people transmitting the understandings that Meredith Quinn Musa tried to get through. So I went up there, and I mean, I won't go into it in any great detail, but other than to say that I know that she went into lodge with the Nehewuk. There was a lodge that was set up by a woman making some claims that weren't supported, and that lodge had to be taken down, and that woman left. And then lodge ceremony for this clan mother that they're agreed upon, to lead their proclamations, I guess, is underway, and Eagle's still helping with that. But then, then I saw that Nunee was winning, because we've been saying in my circle, that if Lakota sovereignty was strong up in Standing Rock, then suddenly the federal courts have no jurisdiction over any Lakotas who were arrested, and that they would have no jurisdiction if wopila was done, and those who were brave enough to stand out and get arrested, but it hasn't happened.
Well, they were standing on the 1851 treaty, claiming that they still had the land rights under that treaty. And that's all been superseded by the 1868 treaty. And so, they didn't really have ground to stand on.
But you're saying that treaty is a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, isn't there some solid ground to get them on to salvage the situation?
Good one.
Well, all of the people who just went through that exercise up there.
They can do the research for themselves about what I just told you.
Because that changes everything.
Yeah. Somebody who has some kind of legal standing can subpoena that document or get it through the Information Act or somewhere from the archive and look at it for themselves.
It needs to be.
Yeah. And it's not only that document and the fact that this treaty never required a number of signatures, but it's also in 1873 they did this Appropriations Act. They called it the Appropriations Act. Somehow, people opportunity to squat and mine and everything else. In 1873, there was a provision in the 1868 treaty that stated specifically, no non-Indians shall enter this territory, the whole 1851 treaty boundary, without the consent and approval of the chiefs. In 1873, President Grant sent General Terry, who was the commander of the cavalry at the time, a handwritten letter, stating that he should disregard that provision and he should allow miners and settlers into the territory. that in itself is a violation of that treaty and invalidates it too. I had a copy of that letter, handwritten letter. It was granted Secretary. Chalupa's got it. I gave it to him. He's got it in a briefcase. It's somewhere in the book. You can probably see it somewhere. But for it, when you take all these things in, plus the many other violations that have occurred, and the fact that genocide occurred is still going on. Well, you take all these things into consideration, and the only conclusion you can arrive at is that this treaty's been self-invalidated many times, a long time ago, and that people should now take that as their grounds for regaining independence for themselves. So basically, that's my whole message that I wanted to bring out.
Well, then what is the process?
You have to confront them. You have to stand on federal land somewhere. Get your media over there and whoever, federal officials. Declare that you have independence and you have jurisdiction. And that you have diplomatic immunity and that you're able to come and go as you please. And walk out of there.
Well, doesn't this lead us to a conversation perhaps with Nunee, who's been bringing forward the understanding that it's all fine and well to stand on sovereignty, but so long as people are all operating with social security numbers, that they're really not able to be sovereign.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that's something that, you can do that, contest that and everything right now. We stand up against it or whatever. Chalupa, right there, he's cutting up his driver's license at the State Department, him and Russell Means. 2007, they went up there. And he put up his social security card, and so he doesn't have it either. Whether you do or whether you don't, you still got to take this bigger stand. Put yourself above the United States authority by standing on that Geneva Convention 53-61, self-invalidating treaty.
What about the Oceti?
What about them?
For those who want to be free of the U.S. corporation.
Well, that's something that would have to be discussed later. First and foremost, we want to get our recognition. All these other things are coming to. It's a big process of transferring government and authority, and there's a lot involved in that.
Can you perhaps give people some vision of how you would see that looking in a peaceful, positive transition?
First of all, you have to get them to recognize that we do have jurisdiction. This treaty was self-invalidated, and that we have our independent nation status. You know, all of that in line. And then we sit down and we talk about transferring jurisdiction, discharge and government, commerce and trade, and regulate that. What do you owe us? And how are you going to take care of that? And all this stuff has to be step by step addressed.
So I know even, in speaking with Gary Rowland Sr., there's definitely a feeling, an awareness that surrounding, say, Pine Ridge and Oglala and Wounded Knee, that there's encampments, so to speak, of the KKK. There's some seriously violent white people occupying the land surrounding. And so, I've heard concern, and so the question of because obviously the military-industrial complex that's so well integrated that the same people who are contaminating Turtle Island with nuclear waste are behind the decimation of Japan, what is it in this an international law that is so strong that it will make them have to accede?
I don't know if there's anything that'll make them have to accede if they don't want to. When you invoke international law, you have to get nations to support you and not support the other side.
And don't they also have to be truly sovereign nations?
Yeah.
Which most nations aren't. They're democracies set up by fascist Roman-influenced.
Yeah. Well, as long as they're recognized by the United Nations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we can still work with them?
Yeah. If they'll support us, we need their support. That's what we need. For international law to be effective, international law in itself, you want to recognize it. Got nobody backing you, and if they don't want to recognize it, then what you going to do? So you got to have support to do this, but that's what you do. You get support.
So it seems also that
First you make
the movement of restoring sovereignty and the declarations being done by indigenous nations of the four root races globally would create additional sovereign nations to recognize sovereignty. Really, it's so amazing that we're talking about, we're all part of the 99%, and they're all like the 1%. So it's like I said, there's 99 people in a room, and there's this one bully who's, I'm going to kill all the rest of you and steal everything, and there's way more of us than there are of them, I would think, although I guess a lot of people are just happy watching television.
Probably so. Well, anyway, that's kind of where we're at. You have to take your first step. You have to make your declaration. Stand your ground.
And who's leading the people to be able to make those declarations?
Well, that's what we have to determine. Somebody has to stand up there. I told you, I'll stand up there. I'll make this declaration. I'll hand it over to you. You can take over jurisdiction, whatever. Whoever wants to come along can come along, but someone's got to do it.
So, listeners, we're having conversation with Oyate Ota and Nunee. And sister, tell me your traditional name.
Nunee.
And Nunee. And we're going to take a moment and listen to a word from our sponsor, Roland and Linda Thomas of BioAge, which is a remarkable blue-green algae superfood that was developed by Dr. Michael Kuriak and helped a lot of people after Chernobyl, and it's something that we're happy to be able to recommend. And then we'll be right back and continue this conversation. And thanks for joining us.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com. And now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. If you can increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. Bio Superfood has 0 toxicity and is safe for you and your family.
Make sure to read for free online the book that tells it all at awakeningthegeniuswithin.com and visit bioage.com/utopia or phone 877-288-9116 for more information and to order. And make sure to mention Utopia for a 15% discount. Again, listeners, thanks for joining us. This is Seava with Oyate Ota and Nunee and Nunee. And we're going to listen to some music, some very significant music. Oyate? Yes, please.
Not at all. Not at all. I'll call in and I'll ask questions. What's the question? But you're going to have to mute yourself because it's probably the place and we'll get like later. Don't do it. Not right now, later. Not right now, later.
So tell us about the music, Oyate.
I have some other music that's, I wouldn't say similar to this, but in the same vein, I guess. I just try to get a positive message through, and get some information through. And, just let it be at that.
What more do you want to tell the nation at this point in time?
Everybody's got to get together, just like the song said. You got to get together. You got to unite under one platform. And the only way to do that, is to really get information out there about these things. Like I told you, how the treaty was forged, how it was violated, how genocide is ongoing. The people have been denied their right to live a free Aboriginal existence. They choose to. They've been denied that. And they deserve to have it back. We want to declare the area in the Black Hills to begin with. Whenever we do this Declaration of Independence, the recognition, we want to declare a sacred area where people could live free, just with nature. And that would be a start.
So foregoing the electric?
Yeah, all technology we banned from this area. But we discussed anyway. And, so that's just one of the differences about having independent nation status and not having it, dependent on the United States government, forced to live in an isolated area. This could never happen. Primarily in the Black Hills. Much of this sacred area needs to be in the Black Hills.
Well, my understanding is that even the constellations with the Lakota names correspond to real places in the Black Hills, which is why ceremonies move throughout the course of the season in conjunction with the constellations.
Yeah. Well, that all needs to be revitalized. And the only way to have that is to have an independent nation status where you have control over your territory.
Well, and there's so much repair. I know that I was just out. I've been living in Hot Springs and Buffalo Gap since the end of February when Gary asked me to come out for treaty council, and I realized that I needed, once I got here, I needed to stay. You know? But, you know, they just had the hearings about Edgemont again. They're wanting to, you know, kick up their effort to get permitted to do in situ uranium mining out in Edgemont, which I understand from Lindsay McLean, the counts are already so high just in the air that when I passed on this other woman's request, Susan Robinson, I think her name is, that the Lakotas set up, you know, a TP encampment over in Edgemont to make a statement. And Lindsay McLean said, no, I wouldn't suggest that. The counts are too high to be in that area. So, I mean, and those are the kinds of things. I mean, the incredible desecration of the area around Wind Caves, you know, where it's like cheesecake of, you know, Manhattan Project nuclear waste and all that stuff. But the nice thing is that somebody like, you know, we do have even, you know, this Ojibwe scientist, Thunder Whitecloud, has these holograms, and if I can get my hands on one of his holograms that remediates radiation and a Geiger counter, I will be a happy woman. Because I've seen the numbers go down on his radiation, you know, not radiation, on his fuel tank emissions hologram. That's but I'd like, you know, I mean, that's something that you know, I agree with the white plumes and the work that so many are doing, you know, because, you know, the radiation levels are elevated.
I have some other music too that we never got to.
Well, let's listen to some more music.
That I could send you.
Well, we still have...
If you have an email address that I can send it to, I can just send you a file.
Okay.
Because I'd have to find it on here.
All right. Well, we still have an hour of the program left, but I'm happy to give you my email and listeners to Lisa J. Wolf, LISAJWOLF, @gmail.com is my email. And do any of our other guests in the studio have questions or things that you'd like to share?
LISA.
LISAJWOLF, all lowercase, @gmail.com. So will you play another piece for us?
something like that.
Thank you all for being with us. This beautiful Oyate. Are we going to hear some more music? Well, listeners, it's funny. Some of you may be watching. I'm trying to also do Facebook Live so everybody can get a little bit of the visual and to be a little bit more connected with us. And it keeps flashing on and off. I see that hi, Juan and Alex were watching, but we're still live on the air. Nunee, so this is your uncle. It's kind of amazing to have this man for your uncle. Tell listeners something about yourself, and it's okay. Okay, let's give Nunee a minute. What is this? How does life being Lakota?
It's been a challenge. Growing up, my mother stripped my brother, my sister, and myself of our heritage and told us pretty much you're nothing but white. And so we grew up not knowing who we were. And I was lucky enough to go with my dad back home to Pine Ridge for a while before he passed. And having a connection now, being separated from my family and having this connection, it's special to hear and special to know these things. Like being able to hear it firsthand is figure out where we need to take our next steps and what we need to do to get us back to where we need to be. It's refreshing. Gives us hope.
And that's a good place to return to listen to some more music.
No more.
Dakota stand up. We're one. Dakota stand up. Dakota stand up. Dakota stand up. Dakota stand up. Stand up.
Stand up. It looks like you've been standing up a long time, Oyate.
Yeah, still standing.
Tell us something more about your life, your journey, and
Well, I was born on the Rosebud Reservation, Green Creek. And, I grew up mostly around South Dakota, Plain Ridge, Rosebud, Rapid City, the towns in Wyoming and stuff. My dad worked on construction. He traveled around and lived in Pine Ridge quite a long time, off and on.
did you experience residential school yourself? I mean, how did you experience colonialization and genocide?
Well, I went to school in little areas. I didn't went to boarding school, but my cousins all did. But went to little schools here and there. And it was kind of rough because got singled out, you got teased, you know. And, so I didn't really have a good experience with school.
Well, and there was when was it that you even were allowed once again to perform ceremony? Because I know in reading, descriptions that, Musa talked about in The Great Matriarch, and he talks about being a young boy and, and initiation ceremonies happening and being just attacked and having all the sacred beaten and
yeah. A lot of that happened, in boarding schools where they abused, children a lot. And as far as the general, when I was growing up, it was like, especially in Rapid City kind of, all of South Dakota, really. Rapid City, there's this kind of overall feeling that you're looked at as inferior.
which is so bizarre because the Lakotas are so superior and so humble.
Yeah, and so you start feeling that way. You go, you're superior.
Well, I know growing up as a Hebrew, I heard stories that in the South, when my mother and father were growing up, there would be signs that would say, no dogs, no Jews, no blacks, and that feeling of being, yeah. So that Nunee seems to think there's some hope for the Constitution and still some kind of alliance between perhaps what was the core of a not greedy intention to be on Turtle Island. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Nunee, can you help us with that point as to how there's still hope for the U.S. Constitution as part of this remedy?
Yeah, but when I was young, really small child, 6 or whatever, in Rapid City, South Dakota, there, all the Indians that came from the reservation that came to Rapid City all lived at the Indian camp. The Indian camp was situated at the creek, Rapid Creek, right next to the packing plant in the sawmill. They could get throwaway food there from the packing plant.
Sure.
Discarded, and they could get wood from the sawmill that was left over, and so water from the creek. So there was this Indian camp that got set up. They called it the Oshkosh camp. That was set up right there. That's where all the Indians lived. Kind of overflowed, and so all the Indians started living along the creek in little shanties constructed there, and kind of up the hill from the packing plant and the sawmill. There's a little hill there. That's where my grandma lived. She had a little house up there. It's just a wooden shack, 20 by 16 or something like that. Cook stove in it, one of the old ones, with a little fire box in it, about 8 by 8, 12 inches long or something like that. And just boards on the side. Carpet. The boards you could see cracks, you could see through. I used to live with her a lot. She was an old Lakota, she spoke nothing but Lakota. She would speak English, but but you're not Lakota anyway. The boards, you could see through them in the wintertime. Snow would come through there, ice would float up these cracks. So all she had for fire was that little box. There was still no running water. We had to haul water from somewhere. And get wood from sawmill way down the road, drag it up, drag whatever food we could get up the hill. We didn't have any money, so we didn't have food a lot of times. And had to walk everywhere. So we walked everywhere. There's a bunch of other Indian families that lived on this hillside up there. So that was kind of really my class in the 50s. Eventually they moved to Indian camp out there, outside of town. They called it Sioux addition to the city. Little shacks were out there. Now they've got Lakota homes out there. Move housing. But it's still basically the same there. Inferior.
How can
That is inferior here.
it boggles me when I'm driving through, well, particularly South and North Dakota, and I see all these fences and all these cows and all these nice houses, and I'm just thinking, this is all stolen.
Yeah.
You have no right to be here. So again, back to, but there has to be a way to calm the immigrants, because the whole thing is a travesty.
I don't know if there's a way to calm it, but gotta be some kind of a way for them to accept it, that they don't like it. And that this land has to be returned. Stolen, all right.
Mm-hmm.
If it's returned, then you have to something move out. I don't know, do some rent or.
Well, the thing we all realized was that they're already paying taxes, city, state, federal. I mean, besides the fact that my understanding is that, say, all the wealth of the Vatican actually belongs to the nations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it would be just a changing of administration of resources,
Right, yeah.
which I heard was something that destroyed an attempt at sovereignty that was underway up in upstate New York or something, that Meredith Quinn had helped some tribal people regain their sovereignty, and then they got a hold of a bunch of money. Something happened. I don't know the whole story. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
You know, because it is a thing, you know, it's like, you know, administering these systems.
Yeah, well, corruption has to be defeated somehow, you know.
Yeah. Well, and it's all, you know, I've been watching and living in Nevada since late 2004 in Nunee territories. I mean, everybody's related to everybody else, and this person gets mad at this person for that, and then they don't speak for years, and, you know, and it's like, guys, it doesn't really matter at this point. Everybody's got to get past that. And I see the same thing, you know, when I'm in South Dakota. And that's what you're talking about, you know, time for unity.
Yeah. Yeah, well, people don't know about what I've told you.
Changes the whole.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps been thinking they have to stand on that FORT Laramie Treaty. And if you're, I mean, I think the phrase fort going with a treaty is a dead giveaway that it wasn't really signed without duress anyway. So how is your own personal sovereignty as a Lakota coming?
Not too good. Not compared to anybody else's, but you know, I got my own license, just letting you know.
And how is that working? Has it been put to the test?
Yeah, I've used it, and nobody uses it as a passport. Driver's license.
Now, I recall when Russell Means, I was watching and reading, and Russell invited people to come. Now, we don't exactly need a republic. I mean, is that, and that's what I've noticed in talking to everybody coming in fresh, so to speak, is a kind way to put it. Is people have attachment to you know, they've tried this and for many years, and what really is the basis of Lakota sovereignty? You know, without this, or, you know, and then you have Lenape wanting to bring the word Sioux into documentation, and others saying, well, no, you don't want to do that because Sioux is a derogatory term for the Lakota, and that it's best not to have that on documents.
We don't recognize it. It's there. Participating in this.
So what do you call the nation?
The nation?
And that includes the Dakota and Lakota.
Yeah, sure. They're part of it too.
Nunee, is there anything that you'd like to share with listeners?
Well, what do you call it?
Well, I think I've.
This long, tell him that Bernie told about how he declared independence.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Will you tell that story, please?
I told it. Signed that declaration. Well, I've got to kind of get ready to get ready.
Okay. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us this Sunday, July 2nd. And we will close with a song by Tony Palmer and the Breeds called Eagle in the Distance.
Coming forward, you can perfect.
Like a South Dakota winter, blowing across the hills. Feelings getting closer, closer ever still. And there's an eagle in the distance, finding my way. Thoughts surrounding deeper. Words are hard to say, leaving expectations far enough behind, following the footsteps from another time. There's a eagle in the distance, calling my name. for my vision and the blindness in which I saw further.
After just a few weeks of using EP protocol for Maximus